Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says the vast majority of citizens and businesses support the state of emergency and the government's efforts to combat crime. Her comments come after 13 trade unions delivered a letter to the office of the Prime Minister objecting to regulations that prohibit protests within 500 meters of 15 designated locations, including Parliament, courts, prisons, and police stations. But the Prime Minister dismissed concerns that citizens are being prevented from exercising their democratic rights. She pointed to the limited size of restricted zones, saying, quote, "The area around the 15 buildings listed covers 11.77 square kilometers or 0.23% of our total land area. Therefore, all citizens have 5,119.23 square kilometers or 99.77% of the country to use for protests," end quote. Persad-Bissessar said the restrictions were introduced for security reasons. According to her, quote, "The 500-meter zone around these buildings was used because at that distance the effects of small arms and rifle gunfire are negated," end quote. She added that the move followed what she described as attempts to intimidate public officials and provoke police officers. The Prime Minister also rejected claims that constitutional freedoms are being stifled under the state of emergency. She said, quote, "Law-abiding citizens are amazed at the absurdity and hilarity where there are people protesting to say they can't protest, having public meetings to say they can't have public meetings, and freely voicing opinions on every mainstream and social media platform, claiming their voices are being muzzled," end quote. She also had a message for union leaders who have voiced concerns. Persad-Bissessar said, quote, "I encourage union leaders to focus on issues and work to actually benefit their members," end quote. The Prime Minister further defended the emergency measures as a necessary response to decades of violent crime, adding, quote, "For about 25 years, the country has been tormented by violence. Over 10,000 murders, over 20,000 reported rapes and sexual assaults, tens of thousands of robberies, beatings, and other violent acts," end quote. She argued that protecting law-abiding citizens must take precedence, adding that the measures are temporary and intended to prevent the country from enduring another generation of unchecked violence. Persad-Bissessar also took aim at the opposition People's National Movement, which has signalled it will not support the extension when it comes before Parliament. She said, quote, "I would have thought that the sensible behaviour would be to wait to hear the government's points and evidence before making a decision," end quote. She added that if the opposition chooses to walk out of tomorrow's debate, it is, quote-unquote, their constitutional right to do so. Meanwhile, when asked about criticism that constitutional rights are being restricted under the state of emergency, Persad-Bissessar dismissed her detractors, saying, quote, "I don't plan to argue with political and race grifters, publicity farmers, and deranged people," end quote. The Prime Minister maintained that communities across the country are demanding peace and security, and that government will continue supporting law enforcement efforts to reduce crime and improve public safety. The extension of the state of emergency is expected to be a major point of debate in Parliament tomorrow as government and opposition lawmakers clash over whether the measures strike the right balance between public safety and civil liberties. You can read more in tomorrow's Express by Anna Ramdas. Urvashi Tumori Rupnarayan, TV6 News.